You are signing in. This is a very special show today. We're talking about how you can grow your career, and if you're gonna grow your organization, how you can grow in bringing in folks from all different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds. We're going to talk about that as well. How can you build a really strong network of folks in your network to help you grow in your career? So we got some great guests to talk about that, and I'm just going to double check and make sure that we are online. And let me know if you like the music there. We tried something a little bit different today, so we'll see. We'll see what you guys say about that. Okay, I'm just going to pull up the. It looks like we are live, which is great news. Now let us know if you can see us and hear us. Oh, look at that.
Everything will go smooth. I feel.
Yep. That sounds and looks good, guys. Let us know where you're signing in from. What city and state are you signing in from today? If you're coming from another country, we want to know that too. Let us know what country you're coming from. Let me go ahead and introduce our guests, our esteemed guests we have today. I am going to start from the very top, which is Miss Tanya Rippeth. She has many, many years as a senior HR director. Welcome to the show, Tanya.
Thanks everybody.
Excellent. Then we also have Miss DeAnnah Stinson Rose. Now she is a expert when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, all about building a network amongst not only folks of the majority but also minority backgrounds. Right? That's a big focus. So welcome to the show, DeAnnah.
Thank you for having me.
Rollis, it's DeAnnah Reese.
Where did I get Rose from? This is
it looks like I'm surrounded by roses. I'm such a lovely person, so it's okay. I get it.
You know what? I just thought about it. Leah's middle name is Rose.
I go by Leah Rose, so
yeah, and so I had that on the brain momentarily. So there's nothing wrong with your screen, folks. That was me. I made that mistake.
Oh, he got it fixed. Okay.
So it's already fixed. That's a distant memory. We'll pretend like that never happened. Okay.
Never happened.
DeAnnah Stinson Reese, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we also have my wonderful co-host, Miss Leah Rose Ramsey, or Leah Ramsey. Yes. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk with these wonderful ladies today.
Speaking of roses, I am a thorn amongst roses today.
Aw,
how nice.
I had to make up for my first mistake anyway, right? No, I really do mean I really appreciate having you guys on today. And we just want to have a nice free-flowing conversation amongst not only us, but the folks out in the comments. Guys in the comments, that you're here. We want you to participate with us, get involved in the discussion. We're talking about how you and we can grow in our network and make it a strong network, and how we can do it across folks of all different backgrounds. Because if we're going to grow and we're going to be profitable and equitable as an organization, we have to embrace the direction that things are going, which is more of a diversity type spin. So what I'd like to do just briefly, just for a moment, let's talk a little bit about your different backgrounds. Let's start off with you, DeAnnah. What kind of got you here to this point? I mean, you're this minority expert helping folks to grow in their career and all that kind of stuff. How did you get there?
It honestly came from, my own experiences throughout corporate America and the different roles that I had. I kind of fell into retention efforts. Did not, go to school to be a retention expert, if you would, for diversity and inclusion. But I kind of fell into it through my bachelor's degree in HR management. And so from that point, after I got my bachelor's, I kind of had roles that caused me to, or gave me the opportunity to work on hiring initiatives to be more inclusive and equitable, trainings for minorities, how do we retain them, all those different components that a lot of companies tend to struggle with. And I kind of moved throughout my career doing this. And ultimately, 3 years ago, it was kind of like, I figured out how to make it work, and I'm going to do it on my own as a consultant. And so here we are. Today, 2020, I've worked with some really amazing top tier companies now, like Microsoft, Stanley Black & Decker, TD Bank. So many amazing companies have brought me in to do DEI work with them. And so I'm very grateful for that. But on the flip side, like you mentioned, I'm also helping minorities and women advance in their careers, because those groups tend to struggle the most with understanding how to position themselves as an asset to really take control of their career trajectory. So this is my background and what I have to contribute to the conversation. So I'm excited to dive in and to chat with Tanya.
We are too, yes. And so, Tanya, tell us how you got here. I mean, you've got many, many years of experience as an HR director in healthcare. How did you get there?
So, excuse me, finding myself in healthcare wasn't intentional, but I've certainly enjoyed all my many years in healthcare. And often as HR professionals, you support people that do a specialty skill set that you necessarily have absolutely not a lot of idea about, nor would they want me to be a clinician, so to speak. But just thriving and appreciating what you are a part of that serves the community that you're in is been very valuable. And so a part of that where I live is very rural. It's a very small valley in Colorado. And we're about 2 hours west of Denver, just to give everybody an idea of what that looks like. And so a lot of what I found myself doing here at this healthcare organization is creating some larger, more expanding networks that's both healthcare HR as well as any industry HR, just to keep your skill set up and fostering and maintaining those relationships along the way in all capacities is just so hugely valuable. And that's hopefully what I can bring to the conversation today and explain a little bit about that and trying to remind us all to think outside the box truly and not be too short-sighted, because if you're feeling like you're stuck or you don't know where to go or what to do, this type of a networking opportunity, for example, is huge because what DeAnnah provides is so valuable, and I could see myself bringing her to our organization here, but what does that look like and how do we connect? And so really having those connections, it's all about people, especially with COVID. It's all about people, relating to people, connecting with people, listening to people. And I just find that that's a really interesting dynamic that all of us find ourselves in currently because of the really quick demand that COVID has put on all of us, as well as all of the movements we've got going out there about diversity and inclusion and really trying to respect one another and see what that looks like. And it's just great to have technology like we have today so we can hop on the line for an hour and connect this way from Texas to Colorado and wherever else everybody is from. So it's exciting times.
I love it. Yes, I agree. And, Leah, in fact, let's go ahead and have you talk about how you got here just for a moment before I get back into our discussion.
How I got to my current job with HR Maximizer?
Well, just in talent acquisition, because you didn't start your career track.
No.
I'm sending a message to folks out in our community that where you start doesn't necessarily mean where you're going to finish, right? We want to make certain changes.
I'm the poster child for that. I went to law school, and I realized that I was like, oh gosh, I really don't want to do this. It's not at all what I wanted to do. I used to work for an oil company in South America, and I went back to school and I was like, I'm going to be the best international oil and gas lawyer there ever was. And I finished school and I came to Houston and I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be a part of this. Just the work-life balance was absolutely not possible. So I started looking for jobs. I met Rollis. I was like, can you, I had no idea about HR and recruiting. And I just said, yeah, I'll take this job. I want it. I want to do it. And I learned everything I possibly could. I'm a little weird in type A. So of course, I dove in and I got, I did certifications. I do have a master's of public administration, which really helped because I do have a lot of HR academic training, I would say, but I just dove in and I've been here for 6 years. So yeah, I'm completely did not start out to do this or intend to do this whatsoever. But it created a really great work-life balance. I love what I do. I'm able to help companies recruit and change their process. And I'm also able to help people move up and move on in their careers. I've got to talk to people all over the nation, all over the world. So it's just something I never thought about doing. And I find that a lot in HR. Most people aren't like, oh, started college and was like, I want to be in HR. It's not super common, but it's such a great place to be. Yeah. So I'm happy I'm here.
And I'm happy you're here too. But, I think it's a good lesson for all of us, that where you are right at this moment, if you're not in the place you want to be, it doesn't mean that's where you're going to end up. You may end up in a much different place that's a much better fit for you. You just never know. I know whenever I left my last job and I was starting to look for other places, there was some frustrations there in finding another place, partly because I had the heart of an entrepreneur and probably didn't want to work for anybody else anyway, but I was still going to interviews. And I feel really blessed and appreciative of the business that I have and enjoy and share with folks like Leah and other folks on our team. So that's just a little bit of encouragement to everybody who's watching. You know what? If you're not in the place where you're going to be, where you want to be, you just never know where you're going to end up, and it may be the best thing that ever happened to you. You just never know. It's just right around the corner, right, guys?
That's very true.
Yeah. Okay, so we got some folks in the comments. We have Timothy Brown. He's here. Hey, Timothy. We got Patty Witt. Patty Witt's here from Alabama, and I know that Timothy is from North Carolina. We have Kim from Sarasota, Florida. Welcome in, Kim. She says, DeAnnah looks like a rose. So even though I put your name wrong, you look like a rose. Awesome.
Thank you.
Casey's here. He says, hi, Rollis and everyone. And we have, let's see, I saw a couple more here. Oh, yeah, Becky Clark. She says, good afternoon. She's from Florida. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, guys, you were watching earlier, is somehow Leah and DeAnnah flipped spaces. So that's why while they were going through their introductions, I kind of moved them around a little bit. So that's how that happened. Yeah. So I think what happened was, I think maybe with the video or something, someone had to get off or get on. It changed the order. Let's get into the first question. Let's talk about career growth. Okay. So I think, and guys, in the comments, let us know what you want to hear more of. Want more about personal career growth, or how to grow your organization? We want to cater our program and our conversation towards what you're interested in. So let us know what topics you're interested in. I also would like to know, have any of you started a career in one place and ended up in another? I'd like to know that, since a lot of us have done that. Like you thought you were going to go this direction and you end up going another direction. Okay. Yes. And Timothy says Charlotte, North Carolina in the house. So, Tanya or DeAnnah, who would like to start us off about building a strong network, career network?
I think I want to let, if you don't mind, Tanya to go first, because I like to let audiences hear the perspective of somebody that's actually on the HR side actively, like currently, because things have changed, right? Yes. From 10 years ago, what it looked like, it changed. And then I can piggyback on that to give the perspective, from the lens of the candidate, if you would.
Yes.
Yeah. So some of my thoughts will probably be pretty obvious, but maybe there'll be tidbits here and there that some of us can glean from and work on that, or at least bring it back into the focus. So being in the rural area, I mentioned earlier, it was a lot of activity and work, not just to maintain that network, because again, I do think that the network of people that you surround yourself with really speaks about who you are and what kind of thought process and methodology your brain works toward. Because in that sense of the cliche, work smarter, not harder, being able to be open to each other and not just have people reach out to you and be approachable, but also for you to be able to call them and say, hey, what do you know about this? Have you gone through it? Tell me about your experience, good, bad, and indifferent. Because, we in HR too have a lot of war stories or horror stories, if you would. We like to share that with our trusted circles. And so you can learn a lot from people about that space of it. But more importantly, also we have our national associations or our state as professional associations, really tapping into those and creating those relationships that way and fostering it and maintaining it. It's not just about a connect now and then I'm not going to talk with you probably for 2 years until I need you in some capacity, but fostering it at all times periodically is so important. And what helps us in that capacity, even today compared 10 years ago, is the ability with technology that we have today. We have so much technology that makes it so much easier to connect to people and connect consistently and ensure that we are having that those networks to be able to reach out to. It's just insane if we don't take advantage of that and be able to, have LinkedIn, or I'm not too big on Facebook, more so LinkedIn or email, or even having a cell phone and texting somebody is huge in that regard, because again, it's just something that is working smarter and not harder. And nationally even, like now I hope to have people that are on the line with me become part of my network, whatever it is I do tomorrow, and know that those people can reach out and connect with me. So whatever industry that you're in, but particularly healthcare, because healthcare is so much very similar to the next healthcare facility or location, there's a lot of information you can share and a lot of questions you can ask because of the regulations and the accreditations, if you have any of those that come along with that we have to abide and follow. And so being able to ask someone that you trust that's in HR, just in a different facility, is huge in that capacity as well too. Plus it kind of keeps you personally sane because you can bounce things off people that get you. Like, oh, I completely know what you're talking about. You don't need to explain it no more. I'm with you. And so just be able to connect in such a way that's easy and right at your fingertips now, I think is really the point of being able to be successful as HR in healthcare or any industry.
Just one thing I also wanted to mention too about you, Tanya, that I was impressed with is that not only did you get involved with the national organization, which for healthcare HR professionals, but you really got involved on a local level and has even served as a past president. I know that your chapter has received the 4-star status within the ASHRA system, which is very commendable. What was it that kind of brought you to that world?
Yeah, that was something that one of my mentors, who I no longer work directly with, kind of introduced me to when I came here. A few years down the road, I got a light bulb like, oh, I need to Google some more professional associations and see what's out there, because it's so easy just to do some quick research and be able to connect with an association for recruitment or an association for diversity, not just HR. But that's how I came involved in that. And then served on the committees, because you'll find that if you have time and interest to volunteer on such committees, they will welcome you in because it is a volunteer position. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it's, it becomes part of your passion and who you are and what you enjoy doing. And again, it's those great people that you're surrounded by at that state level and then at the national level even. And so, I was the president for 2 years. This is my first year out of it. But somebody that I was closely working with is now the president of the association. So really not just me being a part of it, but bringing in other people that aren't a part of it into that circle, because again, you know the value yourself, being able to share that and bring them into it. So it was enjoyable. It is a lot of work. Absolutely. I don't want to minimize the fact that it's just something where, oh, it's just so great. You'll fit it in anywhere.
Right.
You do need to make sure that you have the priorities where you want them that works for you and your lifestyle.
Okay, let me switch you guys up. In order to do that, just take your video off, Leah, and bring it back, and it'll bring you right back that way. And also, DeAnnah, you want to do anything? There we go. Perfect. See, you guys are awesome. All right. So, DeAnnah, that's great feedback on that, Tanya. And so, DeAnnah, from your perspective, what are your thoughts on building a strong network?
I think it is absolutely and undeniably vital to career growth because we live in a day and age where a lot of companies and just individuals, period, when they can have someone that can vouch, or that can kind of speak to a person's capabilities, like as a referral, it holds a lot of weight. It makes a person feel a little bit more secure. If I want to go get my hair done and I'm, new to the area, and I know I love Leah's hair, and I'm like, Leah, can you, recommend a hairstylist? 9 times out of 10, whoever Leah recommends, I'm going to give them a chance just off of the strength that I trust Leah's judgment. I trust, what it is that she has to say in regards to a good hairstylist. And so I like to tell professionals, your network, which is cliche, but your network is your net worth. And you want to be very strategic about how you're networking, because you want to make sure that you're networking with people that not only you can receive from, but that you can give to, because that allows for the relationship to actually flourish and grow. And so I love LinkedIn, and I'm going to have to probably email LinkedIn so they can give me a kickback or something, because I'm always encouraging people to use LinkedIn. But I love LinkedIn for the purpose of how as Tanya had mentioned, we're remote now. And so the beauty of social media, especially with LinkedIn, is you get to still network, as effectively as you would almost with an in-person event. And so if you're strategic about how you do that, positioning yourself online, right, add value to your community by telling those stories, those challenges that you went through, because somebody in your network that you've connected with, they may be like, oh my goodness, I know exactly how she's feeling. I just dealt with that last week, right? And now you have somebody that has a little bit more buy-in in your experiences and your journey. And so when you are ready to, let's say, start a job search, you can kind of pick people's brains that are in those higher level roles in like an informational type interview. And in that process, I tell people informational interviews are really cool because it gives the person that you're wanting to interview with a chance to kind of talk about how they got to where they are. They almost get to kind of brag a little bit about, their accomplishments. And people like to talk about their accomplishments to a certain degree. And so that gives them a chance to do that. But in return, you're learning, right, from them and from their experiences. And then they're going to naturally say, well, tell me a little bit about you. That's your time to kind of help to get that investment from them to say, well, I'm a law professional and I've been doing X, Y, and Z for X number of years. I love your story, Leah. And I'm looking, though, to kind of transition into the talent acquisition space, because over the years I've been able to do this, this, and this. And so I'm ready to jump right in, learn, and hit the ground running, just based off of my academic background and some of the experiences I had on the legal side in oil and gas. That may intrigue me as somebody that maybe, or Tanya as a HR director, like, wow, she has a law background. It would be nice to have somebody on the talent acquisition side that has some legal background. Let me see if we have something, or a colleague of hers may have something. And before you know it, you kind of tapped into what I call the hidden job market. So your network is exactly. Your network is so vital to your career growth. It's not the end all be all. Like, if you don't have a strong network, it doesn't mean you can't advance. It just means if you have a strong network and you know how to strategically curate that network, then you're going to progress a lot faster than someone who doesn't. So that's my 2 cents on that.
And what is that? Do you guys remember? It's that 6th person removed, or we know everyone through the 6th.
6 degrees of separation.
I wonder if social media now has shortened that. Like maybe we know 5 people through separation because it's connected us a little bit more so than it was.
I love that feature on LinkedIn where you can see your mutual connections, because there's a couple of people that I love to follow and what they do on LinkedIn. And if I see them as a mutual connection, I'm like, yep, that person definitely needs to be in my network. I know that they have like this standard of professionalism. I know that this specific person isn't just going to follow anyone. And on that, I have tried to be a lot better about connecting on LinkedIn and being more meaningful, and actually, not just connecting with everyone. I am an open networker, which, I'll accept anybody's, but I try to engage them and find out why they wanted to connect. And actually, when I connected with DeAnnah, this was so cool. I got a message back and said, hey, thanks for the connection. What interested you in connecting with me? And I wrote her back like 3 minutes later and said, I was looking at your profile, found it. We have mutual connections. I want to connect you with Rollis because he's doing a conference on diversity, equity, inclusion. You're an expert. He's not an expert yet. He's going to talk about it. He works in this area. And that's literally how this all happened. And it was because she made a meaningful connection. I answered right away. And this is how we all got here today. So that, it's the power of networking and how you're able to connect people meaningfully. The other thing I was going to say is, Tanya, I love the SHRM Connect, the thing where you there's all those questions people ask, like, hey, does anybody have this form? I don't want to have to recreate it. And we have one also for ASHRA, which is the healthcare HR. And I go on there on a daily basis. I have been able to find so much great content, information, but it's such a powerful tool to go to a group, a community of other like-minded professionals and say, hey, what are you guys doing for COVID checks? What is your process? Do you guys have anything out there? What are your screeners doing? Can I get your information on it? So you're not doing it all over at every single step of the process.
No, yep, you're absolutely right. And 20 years ago, it felt like a lot of, at least where I was working, was really like, no, we're private. We don't want to talk to our competitors. We don't want to share with them, just keep them out, hold these walls up. And over the time, I wish I would have caught on a little bit sooner, for me at least, building those relationships and breaking down the walls and being able to say, look, here's our policy, use it, whatever you can from it, is so valuable. But I think that there are a lot of professionals out there that are still a little timid and afraid just to ask, because they don't want to be like, what do you mean you're asking for this? Are you crazy? That's proprietary. And that those walls are they're changing. The dynamic is changing. And so I would encourage people just to think about asking. It doesn't hurt to ask, and you can ask civilly. And if they can't give it to you, there's going to be a reason. But at least ask. Just ask. See what happens.
And I agree. I think that actually here in the Texas Medical Center, there's about 17 different healthcare facilities, and they actually signed a information sharing agreement. They're like, hey, we're all in this together. Whatever your organization is doing for work at home employees, please share it. We need to know. Everybody is dealing with the same situation right now. And I think that you're so right. Everybody used to be, maybe, and maybe some still are in certain industries, so protective of what they perceived as proprietary information. But it doesn't seem so proprietary if everybody's doing it. And I think that capability and the willingness to share information it brings up the level of all organizations without leaving people behind, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's different if you're sharing trade secrets and secret sauces, right? But we're talking about, how to help folks be, more engaged at a particular organization, having the right policies in place. Those are all things we should be wanting to share with each other.
Or how to keep people safe. That's a huge one right now. How are you keeping everybody safe?
Wouldn't you guys agree? You can tell me if you agree or not. Do you feel that this situation with COVID has made people that much more open to more connections through online platforms such as a LinkedIn or Zoom, perhaps more than what they were in, let's say, 2019? What are your thoughts on that?
DeAnnah, do you want to?
Yeah, I can. I'll take the lead on that one, or the first response on that one, rather. That's an interesting question. You know what? It very much so probably has increased the amount of people that were willing to be more open to connect, if you would. And for a couple reasons. One reason being, I think because there was a heightened amount of individuals looking for work. And so because of the layoffs, and so more people are likely, more apt to connect with others that, or get on LinkedIn even the more so, and even use it, because a lot of people have profiles but didn't really use it, but maybe have gravitated to LinkedIn to even start using it, and thus connecting more. And then on the flip side, I think for senior leaders, directors, executive leaders, and HR professionals, they probably were a little more open as well, knowing that there are a lot of people looking for feedback, guidance, or even just insights on how to get out of that unemployment rut. And so it could have very much so increased the amount of, connections. It's hard for me to tell on my end, because they sometimes get a bit overwhelming, the amount of requests that come through, because it's a lot, but it's always been that way. Not always, but like for the past couple, like 2 years, it's been that way. But as I'm thinking about, just how many people I see with that open to work banner on there. Yeah, I think that because of the climate that we're in terms of the labor market, it probably has increased everybody's willingness for different reasons to be more open to connecting with people that they don't know or don't have any connections with.
Yeah. How about you, Tanya? Do you feel it's been kind of encouraged more online communication, or do you think it's about the same as it was in 2019?
Now, I think 100% it has increased. And from my experience, in my opinion, it's not just because people are working remote and so they figure it out faster or slower, depending on the person, how to connect with people. But we, as using the internet for what it is, because it's not very old, right? I mean, it's 30 years old? I don't know. I could be
Sounds
wrong.
about
Don't
right.
quote me on that.
Guess as good as
But
mine.
I think that from what my opinion is that it's gone from a let's connect and then let's spy on each other, or what is that called? Trolling, to let's use the internet and the social media. And Tim posted a comment there, I see, because he's like, yeah, it's been so important for networking during COVID. Let's use it now to our advantage and actually put some oomph behind it, not just oh, this is something I do in my spare time while I'm watching TV, but I'm actually using it at work and being efficient and effective in that space of it. And so I have absolutely seen that, and it can happen quick and it can be efficient and effective, because before COVID, it felt like, oh, someone wants to work remote. Oh my gosh, this is an act of Congress to get support and approval for them to work remote. Where COVID hit, and it was, we've got, 2/3 of our workforce working remote, and it is working, and we can talk to them and can connect, and we can track what their performance is and what they're doing. And I think will hopefully be an eye-opener for people in the C-suites to be able to say, yeah, we have these tools. Let's use them. Let's use them for a good value. Not that personal trolling might not be horrible, I guess. I don't know much about it, but do you see what I mean? It went from a personal fun hobby to let's use it in everyday life. And we're all getting smarter and more comfortable with technology. So I think absolutely, I would say to DeAnnah's point too, it's absolutely increased.
Yeah, Timothy says, I agree completely. My online network has exploded this year, which might just be a silver lining of our current work situation. I have to agree with that. I've also noticed people have learned how to adapt to different technology, because a lot of folks who weren't using Zoom, I didn't know how to use Zoom last year. I wasn't using Zoom last year. I used WebEx and GoToMeeting and some of the other ones, but Zoom just kind of came out of the woodwork for me. And so you have a lot of folks who know Zoom is like a household name now. We have folks who are embracing that technology. So I think that I've seen quite a bit, even folks who are very traditional and didn't want to do the video interviewing. I remember a couple of years ago, Leah, you probably remember this, we would try to do the video interviewing, and there were a lot of people very hesitant to do the video interviewing, even as candidates when they were looking for a job, very hesitant. A lot of times it wouldn't work with whatever software or whatever phone they were using. So there was just a lot of issues that were wrapped around ultimately us just eventually just getting on the phone or bringing them in for a face-to-face and just skipping the video interview. Whereas now it seems to be more of a common practice. What would you say about it, Leah?
I think we started using HireVue and SparkHire, I want to say in 2015, maybe 14,
I think
15.
you're right. Yeah, about 5 years ago. You're right.
It was so difficult to get clients or anybody to want to use it. Oh my gosh, trying to get people, candidates to use it. And we were like, you can use your cell phone. But at that time, I mean, it sounds weird, but 5 years ago, not everybody had smartphones. Now I feel like most people have access to or can find access to a smart device where they can, have a camera. But it was tough. And we finally decided the amount of back and forth emails to try to get somebody to do an online interview or, a live interview, it just wasn't worth it. And now it's like, it's so pervasive. It's every single day. And I'm thankful that we have this type of technology. I hate how it had to come about, because this is a really difficult situation for everybody in the world, in the United States. People are suffering. But it literally took a worldwide pandemic to move the bulk of our working professionals like 20 years into the future. Could you imagine if this hadn't, we would all still be in the office and the same processes, the same, the same way. And I think that we made a massive, like quantum leap almost in the way that work is going to be distributed, the way that work is going to be processed and handled throughout more flat organizations. And I'm hopeful for the future of how people are able to engage with their employees, with their candidates. I saw this great organization today on Comp. So I think it's called Compt, and it's a new system for employee perks. Like they're like, everything's changed. Employee perks don't really happen in the office anymore. It's on your smartphone, and it was a really great app. Like you can go to your stipend for health and wellness. You can get a stipend for, and it's all on an app on your phone. And so things are changing rapidly, and I'm excited to see what happens, I guess.
We got some comments coming in here talking about what we're talking about, which Dr. Ferris Stevenson, she says, and of course, Dr. Timothy Brown, he says he loves Leah's comment about growing her network. But she says, yes, COVID-19 has increased people's willingness to be more open. It is about ensuring the safety of all people, not just nationally, but internationally. I'm also seeing a decrease in competitiveness among healthcare organizations. It's about the law of survival now. That's a great point.
I agree.
Yeah. And Kim says, my network has grown tremendously as a result of the pandemic. It's one of the silver linings of COVID. And Patty Witt says, my network has more than tripled. Wow, that's big. Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you, DeAnnah, I want to kind of get into a little bit about this because there's a lot of emphasis on diversity, equity, inclusion. And I've even come across folks who confuse that with discrimination. We're like, okay, guys, discrimination is like, that's against the law. We're talking about something we're moving forward in the strategy to bring in more diverse folks. So if you can, help us to help organizations, those who are parts of organizations, to kind of expand their mind a bit on what are some of the reasons why, from a practical standpoint, this makes sense now.
Well, for one, there are quite a few studies that have been done by reputable organizations, McKinsey, Talent and Innovation, the Center for Talent and Innovation, that kind of demonstrates and showcases how when you have diversity, throughout your organization, not just in your like entry level roles, but really throughout your leadership, it improves strategic planning within the organization. So you're able to bring more diverse perspectives, and that helps you to eliminate what I like to call blind spots, right? When you have too much of a homogeneous group together, you limit yourself on how competitive you can be. You limit yourself on the amount of revenue you can generate. And I know there's one study that was done, literally for every 10% increase in diversity within senior leadership. And when they said diversity, they included ethnic, gender, and race. Companies saw at minimum about just under 5% increase in their earnings before interest and taxes, right? And so that's just representation visible with gender, race, and ethnicity. So when you think about overall a company, if your goal is to be the best and your goal is to, be a leader that is sought after in terms of in your industry, you want to have a difference of perspectives. They're going to complement each other. So I tell companies, you're not looking for a fit. You're looking for alignment, but somebody's going to add to what you have. Don't look for somebody who's going to fit into this cookie cutter mold that you've created, because that's creating a homogeneous mindset, a homogeneous leadership team. It's all going to be the same. Everybody will be like, oh yeah, that's great. Let's paint the walls blue. Whereas you bring in someone that is in alignment with your goals, but have a different perspective, different experiences to bring to the table. They may say, well, that blue wall could potentially have these hindrances. I don't know what it would be, but these hindrances. So maybe we should consider a white wall with some blue pictures that have some blue in it for this group that's going to attract this group, a little bit of orange that's going to attract this group. And you realize that now you're able to hopefully and potentially cater to a wider audience, which increases your revenue, right? When you look at buying power, I don't want to go too deep in it, but when you even look at the buying power in terms of the type of customers and clientele companies receive, a lot of the buying power comes from minority groups. A variety of different minority groups contribute significantly billions of dollars to the U.S.'s buying power as a whole. And so ultimately I always tie everything back to the bottom line. If it makes sense dollar-wise, I don't see what the problem is. If it's going to allow you to make more money, what's the problem? And I always tell company leaders, never have I seen any study that showed a company was sued because they were diverse and inclusive. I've never seen it happen. I've seen companies, I can pull out, Coca-Cola. I can pull out some companies now that had some legal issues when it came down to diversity and inclusion, but it was because of the lack thereof, not because they were being diverse and inclusive. Right. So it makes sense legally, it makes sense financially, and then when you think about strategic planning, it allows you to be more competitive so that you stand out against your competition.
And then also, one of the things I've observed too is that when you look at it from the standpoint of growth, it can inhibit your growth if you're too focused or your recruiting strategy is too focused, knowingly or unknowingly. Sometimes we do it unknowingly. We may not realize that the language we're using, the pictures we're using, the videos we're using are leaning towards a certain thing that may limit our audience to a smaller audience. And if the talent pool is already small, it makes it that much more difficult to attract those particular candidates. And then I like one of the things that you and I talked about yesterday, DeAnnah, in our pre-conversation was that you also have to look at your customer base, or in the healthcare world, your patient base. And we find that those organizations that are more diverse tend to have better patient satisfaction scores because of having that minority representation, if you will.
Absolutely. Agreed 100%. And what companies across the board have to realize is diversity can't just be at your entry level, right? That is actually going to do more harm than good, because people want to see that representation in the leadership roles, like that's leading the organization. And so when you think about the healthcare industry, they want to see actual doctors, surgeons, the hospital director. They want to see that representation throughout the organization, not just the person that's, checking you in for your appointment or taking your inpatient paperwork. They want to see it in other aspects, to feel like they can trust your ability to kind of connect with them where they're at, right? We all look for different ways that we can connect to somebody that's going to provide us with the service. It's natural, it's human nature. And so sometimes it's going to be related to your gender, it may be related to your socioeconomic background, it may be related to your race, or maybe connected to your experiences. But one of the easier ways to kind of bypass that barrier is usually going to be those physical attributes that you can see, right? I can relate automatically to Leah and Tanya simply off the strength that these are women, right? So I would likely come to them to talk about women issues. No offense, Rollis. Yeah, before I come to Rollis to talk about my women issues. So it's really kind of common sense to a certain degree, but it's easy to miss it because we're so used to things being a certain way. Yeah. And so you kind of miss some of those obvious, blatant ways that you can really benefit from being more diverse, equitable, and inclusive, which are three different things, by the way, for the record.
So when you said something about women, you reminded me of something which is really cool. Everybody who has probably watched Shark Tank at one time or another. And,
yes, I love it.
And one of the guys on Shark Tank, Kevin OLeary, he calls himself Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So I saw an interview with him once, and he's talking about his companies. He had like, I don't know, several dozen companies he had invested in. And you know what he said about women entrepreneurs versus the men entrepreneurs? He said 100% of the companies led up by the women entrepreneurs were profitable, whereas only a small percentage, and in some cases none of them went run by men, were profitable. And since I have three women on the line, I want to get y'all's perspective. Why do you think that, first of all, these corporations, these businesses, the women were doing a better job of running it than the men? And not that we're trying to create sides or anything, but I want to get into your psyche. What are some of your thoughts as to why that happened?
That's a dangerous question.
I want to learn from it. What do you think?
Here's my opinion, which I was looking at Ferris. That's a really cool name, by the way. When her comment, she put intentionally, be intentional. And I think that overall, I'm going to tread lightly, women tend to be much more intentional, and we do a lot more reflection and beating ourselves up before we put something out there. And I think that's where we miss the boat a lot, is because we are so worried that it's not perfect. We're going to hurt someone's feelings. We're going to disappoint someone. We're not the loving caregivers, that we are so intentional in that space that when something is put out there, it really can blow people away. And I think that men have been in that space a lot longer, where they've been able to speak up and put their stuff out there. They're willing to go out on more of a limb and take more of a risk with stuff, where I think women, for the most part, aren't really much risk takers as far as what I've experienced. What do you, DeAnnah?
I'm with
out here by myself.
I got you. I'm coming for the alley-oop, okay? So I'm inclined to agree with a lot of what she said. The word that actually came to mind for me was our innate ability to be nurturing, and because of that, it does prompt that reflective, like you were mentioning, right? We're naturally going to be a little bit more reflective on the decisions that we're making or that are being made in most instances. And for males, because they are, I think many of them have that natural leadership ability, because traditionally the man is perceived as being the head of the household, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a certain level of leadership for many men that kind of is innate. And so when you think about starting a business and growing a business, sometimes because of that, I think it can serve as a blind spot because they've been in that space for so long. And so they may not always see the need to reflect on certain things or to take a step back or to move a little bit slower. Whereas women, I think that it can help us and hinder us if it's too much of it, right? If we have too much of that, it will hinder us. But if we have a nice balance of it, we can figure out how to still take the risk, but still play on that natural ability that we oftentimes have to be nurturers and to be reflective, and to be in tune with the feelings of others, right? Your customers, your client experience, that's very huge when it comes to client and customer retention, and acquisition. And so I think that because we can be very in tune to that a little more naturally, all those different factors help us in being successful as business owners or being in those executive level roles to run an organization. Yes, we may have, emotions that come about at times, but it has shown over the years of, just how businesses have evolved that it actually helps, not harm, the business to be in tune with how others are feeling and being able to reflect and check those emotions.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this so much. You both played it so safe. I'm an unabashed feminist, and I approach everything in my life from a place of knowledge. I do a lot of research, and I love this. And Rollis and I have these conversations a lot, and we have tough conversations. We have some very seriously tough conversations, but it's a back and forth. We talk a lot about race. I'm a white woman, he's a black man. We talk a ton about race. We talk a ton about the females in the workplace, men in the workplace. And one of the things that
it's constructive, Leah. It's constructive.
Very constructive. Oh, very constructive. But the one thing that we both have such a mutual respect for each other. They always are conversations founded and based in respect. So we'll preface it with that. But we go back and forth on a lot of these things. I want to know his perspective. He asks me my perspective a lot. And recently we had a situation where a female leader just wasn't making decisions, wasn't getting back. We were kind of up against a timeline. And he's like, what's going on? And I said, stop. This female got this awesome new job. It is huge for her. It is big. It is new. She's following a male that was very successful in this position who got moved up. She does not have the capability, the bandwidth, or the space to make these big decisions right now. She is brand new in this position. She cannot make waves in the organization, right? She is being viewed as the newcomer. She doesn't have the same level of experience. So she is playing it safe, and we are going to help her play it safe. And we are going to continue to support her in any way we possibly can. And he's like, oh, I never realized that. Because the man that was in the position before, he made huge decisions, budget decisions all the time, because that was the world that he came from. So we talk about this a lot, and I love your guys' input and your perspectives, because it's something that I think about on a daily basis. And I love having open, honest conversations about it. About the Shark Tank thing, Rollis, from my personal understanding, I think that women score higher in emotional intelligence. And that may be physiology or psychology, I don't know. But a lot of women approach problems in a different way, and they move. And I think Tanya said it too. we don't put stuff out there into the world until it's perfect, until it's right, until this program is going to blow everyone away. Whereas some men, well, they'll just throw, and I'm not saying all, of course, but it's difference in personalities. And I think that women are such strong leaders. I look to women to be leaders. I love following women leaders, and I like being a woman leader. And not to say that male leaders are bad in any way, but they've been there for a long time, kind of, historically patriarchal society. And we're finally starting to get there, and it's exciting. I'm excited to see what happens. I think we're going to see a lot more females in leadership in companies and governments all over the world. And I think it, might be a good change. I'm excited. So that's my piece.
Well, I agree. I appreciate all the things you mentioned. It helps give me. I've asked this question before on the show, and I get different answers each time. It's very helpful to hear it. I do feel like there are I'm just talking about personalities for a second. It could be man or woman, but my personality is, I got this new idea. Let's give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, no problem. We'll just do something else, And that's how a lot of guys, that's how a lot of guys think. And that kind of attitude is seen as kind of like a maverick. He's a go-getter. He's whatever. And that's kind of encouraged. Whereas Leah helped me to realize if a female is in that same spot, she's less likely to do that. She wants to be more thoughtful, wants to make sure it's a good decision. Reducing risk. Let's not take too many chances. And so that's where we kind of balance off of each other. And whether that personality is in the male or the female, I think that any board or any organization needs to make sure that they have both types of personalities in leadership positions, working with each other, so that they can make the organization that much better, so they can take some chances, but at the same time be more thoughtful, making sure that they're even more successful in the chances that they take. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So Rollis, before we have to end today, one of the things I wanted to ask you, DeAnnah, was, so how I explain diversity and inclusion to people is diversity is just a fact and inclusion is an act, right? It's something that we do. How do you, as an expert in this field, describe diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because I have a hard time getting that thought process through. So please explain to us how we can help push this forward for other people.
So I use a couple different examples. So one example that I use is like a neighborhood, right? We got a neighborhood of houses on a cul-de-sac, right? Every house is different, right? There's your diversity. Every house has something that's different about them. Everyone is invited to be a part of whatever the housing organization is, right? So everybody's included, right, in being a part of this housing, this HOA organization, just housing organization as a whole, being a part of the community. However, where equity comes in, and this is one example that I use to really highlight why there is a heightened attention on trying to amplify Black voices and improving and increasing minority support within organizations, is if on this cul-de-sac there is one house that is on fire, are you going to have the fire trucks come and spray all the houses because you feel like all the houses need water? Or are you going to focus on the house that's on fire, right? You have to give the attention to where it is needed at the time so that everybody is still benefiting from being on the block. Because if this one house, those flames continue to emerge, then another house catches on fire and another house. When if we would have focused our attention where the need was, then we would have been able to put the fire out and nobody else's house would have been in danger or at risk, right? So that's one example that I've used to help leaders kind of see why the focus and attention needs to be there. Because with equity, it's about having a differentiated approach to meet a need. You're not going to give everybody the same thing. You're not going to give a person that's in a wheelchair a rope to climb a wall, right? That's not going to work. You may build a ramp, right? Because they need to roll. So I help them to understand, and using different examples like that. A very general DEI example is kind of like, diversity is having everybody at the party. Inclusion is everybody dancing. And then equity is playing music that is identifiable by the different groups. So not just playing one genre, but playing different genres of music that caters to the different groups that are in the room dancing. So those are like three very general examples that I typically use when doing strategic meetings and planning with leaders or workshops with leaders.
That's the best I've ever heard it explained. So thank you. I'm going to use that.
The dance one, I've heard the dance one before, like inviting everybody to the dance, all these different people, diversity, inclusion was asking everybody, getting everybody on the dance floor. But I loved the equity part because that is something that I have a hard time explaining, and the difference between equity and equality, because equity and equality are different things. And your example with the ramp and the rope, perfect.
Yeah.
It is so crystal clear. That is, you summed that up so well. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have a little image that I use. It's three people trying to look at a football game, and you have a tall person, you have a medium height person, and then you have a person in the wheelchair. And it says equality is giving everybody a little box to step on, right? But when the tall person steps on the box, they're even higher than that average size person, but they both can see over, over the gate. And then that person in the wheelchair, they're just sitting next to the box like, okay, we all got the same thing. That's equality. We equally got this box, but really the person on the ramp needed something else in order to be able to see. So it's understanding that what you're giving the different people within your organization, it has to look different because their needs are different. So it's a differentiated approach. Just like with learning in school, there's some learners that need different tools, different resources, adaptations in order to effectively learn. And so it's a similar concept when you think about work performance, employee engagement, and retention.
I love it. This is awesome. Okay.
So you haven't gone to DeAnnah's LinkedIn page, you definitely need to. She has a wealth of information there. I'm not kidding you guys. Like, I've read a bunch of stuff on her page, and she the way that you explain things and how eloquent you are and how you really talk about super tough topics in the workplace, but so professionally, I absolutely love it. So I encourage everybody to, go to DeAnnah's page and check it out for sure. It's phenomenal.
And send me DMs, ask questions,
Yes.
Like Rollis said, we had a great conversation earlier. So I'm always down to, have a good conversation in regards to DEI, man. It's going to just help everybody be better, in my opinion.
I also want to acknowledge Patty sent a nice message, and I agree with you. She says remote positions have increased the job pool exponentially, which I think is great. And Dr. Timothy Brown, he says, your organization population should model the community it serves. Oh, I agree with that 100%. Yes. And Joe agrees. She said that the way I described myself, she said, that's totally you. You're an adventurer. And Timothy says he loves the equity conversation. Well, you've already expressed it, DeAnnah, that we should definitely connect with you here on LinkedIn. We're going to make sure you're tagged in here. I cannot believe how quickly the hour has passed. Now, Tanya, how about your preferences with folks reaching out to you?
LinkedIn as well. I already connected with DeAnnah before this, so
love it.
Check that off the box.
We're creating connections here. We love this, folks. Yeah. And so, Leah, same for you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
You can DM me on LinkedIn. Just follow me, connect with me. I love to hear what people are doing. I love their stories. I am hosting a new show.
I was just going to talk about that.
Talent Tuesday, live with Leah. I'm talking all things talent acquisition. Rollis does a lot of shows where he talks about different things. He does motivational stuff. He does round tables. He talks with healthcare organizations, and mine is just going to focus on only talent acquisition. And so I'm excited. It's an area that I love working in, and I love to learn about everything that's happening and what organizations are doing. So please join me for that.
Yes, please.
Promotional plug there.
So yeah, and Joey, can you put in the comments there? The hashtag you want to follow is Live with Leah. So hashtag Live with Leah. You can see all of her shows there. If you want to follow my shows, it's either Live with Rollis or Perspectives Live. You'll see a lot of my shows. But I think the world of you guys, Tanya. I think the world of you. I think the world of you, DeAnnah. What you guys are doing. Keep up the great work, and we just can't wait to see what's next for both of you guys, and we look forward to having y'all back on the show.
Thanks.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. It's been amazing to talk to you guys.
Yes, it's been an amazing hour. Everybody follow these guys. Follow DeAnnah, follow Tanya, follow Leah. They're all great folks to follow. Have a great rest of the day. And remember, tomorrow is Fun and Games Friday. So enjoy some Fun and Games Friday if you want to join us and have some fun tomorrow. And we'll network too.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's do quick poses. Quick poses. Really fast.
Do you want us to wave, or what do you want us to do?
We'll do a smiling pose. And then maybe something a little crazy. Okay. You guys are awesome.
So you guys, he already took us off live. Don't worry.
Okay.
Well, now I'm off live.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So I stop recording, and then as soon as I see us have the crazy faces, then I cut off the stream, because I don't want to cut off the stream while people are still watching. I've actually done that before.
Yeah. So in those poses, so the video editors can take them and cut them, but yeah, so don't worry. I know the first time you did that, I was like, no, I'm not making a weird face. No way.
I don't even hesitate.
I know.
I was like, I'm still on live stream. You're not finna catch me slipping around.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Thank you guys. It was so cool to talk to you guys today.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
And for real, your content is amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Because I get, so many views and comments. I tell people, because people ask, do you get hateful messages and things like that? How do you deal with that? And it's kind of like, you're going to always have somebody that has something bad to say about you, right? And so the things that keep me going are the people that do hop in the DMs to say, thank you for sharing X, Y, and Z. I get a lot of Black professionals that say, I'm so glad you spoke about, A, B, and C. I can't like it because of the organization that I work for, but I'm so glad that you're, being a voice for those of us that can't use our voices. And then of course I get the hateful messages. I get the people that, tell me, all kind of, slanderous and racially charged things. And, just kind of be like, well, you beat that.
I actually just saw one. I was like, that lady that was like, the one that you had posted about, white people saying that they're giving Black people a voice. It's like, no, I have a voice. You can either amplify it, you can choose to amplify it, or you can choose to ignore it. But and that I saw the back and forth on that, and I was instantly angry with them. Clearly didn't feel it. She felt like it was a personal attack. Like, I'm a woman, and
I think those are really just good examples you could use for your teaching and storytelling, because they're real life examples, and you can be like, so this is what happened, and people are like, wow, that did happen to me. And you know what, that's what I would do. I mean, I would get upset about it too, but ultimately I would just turn it around and say, hey, thanks for that comment, because now I'm going to use it as an example in my education of what not to be, you ass.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's literally like the people that come on and take the generalized statements as personal attacks. I always say a hit dog will holler. So, and that really gets mad.
It's so easy just to send a quick snotty message when they don't see you. You'll never run into them most likely, and they just hide behind it. And I think we're getting better.
Those are the trolls.
Exactly. So I was saying the right word, right? Because I'm like, I don't know if that's right. Is that the right terminology?
They're trolls. Man. They are trolls. I get a lot of it. And I used to, I started minimizing the back and forthness, because I realized the impact it was having on the audience in terms of, so you got people that are commenting on the post, so they get the alert of this racially charged or hateful